It's already on. What's up, guys? Hold on. Thank you. What's up? Can y'all hear us okay?
Hey, yep, we can hear you. How y'all doing?
Good, how are y'all?
Good, y'all look all nice. Why you look nice and comfortable?
Hey, look.
It was like, so what you gonna wear? I said, oh, it's gonna be on video. I didn't know.
We're stepping in the,
Y'all look like Monday, we look like Saturday.
But just stressed, I got my pajama pants on the bottom.
Take it to you, lady.
She ain't new to this. She's new to this. Oh man, well listen, guys, we appreciate you all for coming on to our Inspire Kingdom podcast and spending this Saturday afternoon with us. I know it's a lot of different places y'all could be, brunch, watching TV. I know it's Saturday, college football live, so I know we're gonna get you guys in and out.
Ain't no such thing as all that when you got kids. We don't make plans over here.
Yeah, for sure. But I want to again just say thank you guys for coming on. This particular season is called Black Love and Relationships, and so we're diving deep into our family, our close friends, and learning about their love stories and figuring out what makes you guys successful and having a successful marriage in the kingdom. And the kingdom is not just about, God's kingdom. The kingdom is basically what you are building every single day, your legacy, your dreams and your vision, your goals that you're laying for yourself and for your kids, right? So, so in that, I want to start off with introducing our guests here. If you guys can introduce yourself and share with us where you guys live and kind of your background and what you guys do for a living.
All right, well, my name is Desiree, and I am Jamal's one of his older cousins. I live in Pflugerville, and I am a registered. We live in Pflugerville. And I am a registered nurse, but I work as a hospice director.
Wow, nice.
Yeah, and I am her husband, Dewan. Like I said, we live in Pflugerville. I work for Expedia, but the Verbo brand of Expedia. I don't know if y'all have heard of Verbo. I'm a onboarding specialist, and basically what I do is connect software to our platform. So different property management companies that advertise on different platforms like Airbnb, Booking.com, Expedia, and they have software rather than using our platform manually. We connect their software so that way they can manage everything from their software for VRBO Booking.com, Airbnb, so on and so forth. So somewhat in the IT world, basically.
It's interesting. You guys are basically our second interview, and the first interview we did, they basically almost did the same thing. She was a registered nurse.
All right, you guys froze up.
Yeah. So that's what's up. That's what's up. So we on the road. So the first question I want to start off with you guys is kind of to break the ice is, what would you say is your relationship theme song?
What relationship theme song? I mean, we probably have different point of views of this. Relationship theme song, I don't know, maybe how I see it would probably be the Jeffersons theme song. And from that perspective, it's just because I feel like since we've been together, we've started from an apartment, 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment, to a second apartment, to staying with her parents, to buying our first house, selling that house, to buying the house that we're in right now. So it kind of feels like we have moved on up, and I feel like we did it at a fairly early age. We got married when we were 26, and then right after we got married, we had our first child, and then 2 years after that, we had our second. So we kind of did a lot of things pretty quick, but we've always tried to move forward, move up. So that's what I would say. What do you think?
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
No, that's good.
Yeah.
Moving on up, different phases of life. That's
Right.
good. Nobody really thinks of it like that, but when you put it in that perspective, it's a good one.
It is.
Mhm.
I would say for us, we have a couple theme songs. I think it depends. It depends on the day, and I guess, yeah, really it does. Because I mean, we have, Can We Talk?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we be going in. Yeah, so that's what's up. That's what's up. So how did you guys meet?
Ooh, you want to take that one?
Well, we met on the internet before online dating was a fad. And
Okay.
it was, I don't know if y'all remember this or not, but so blackplanet.com. It's
Yeah,
Okay,
we know.
I remember Black Planet.
Oh, Black Planet. Okay.
I
we
remember.
met on Black,
I heard about it. I wasn't on it though.
yeah, blackplanet.com, to where you can pick your own music background and
Used to have
everything.
that Alicia Keys in the background.
Yes,
with the
girl.
Blue Rose.
Yes, girl, yes. So that is how we met. I think Duane actually DM'd me. Is that what you call it now? DM?
Yeah, it was just a note back then. Back in the day, there was no such thing as
You view her profile. You was like, oh, okay. You remember
Well, you
what
know
song you had on there, Desiree? What was
You know
you remember your song you had on there?
No, I don't. But you know, when you mentioned Alicia Keys, I had a lot of Alicia Keys. I had a lot of slow music stuff on mine. And I can't remember what Duane had, but he had some kind of slow music on as well. But you know how the young boys are back in the day. You know, he was all on there with his shirt off.
What's up, baby?
The infamous bathroom picture.
You gotta leave a little treats for the trick-or-treaters.
I hear that, bro.
But you know, the funny, and I think mine was, I want to say it was Jay-Z, Beyonce, How You Like It. That's How You Like It, but I don't know if y'all heard that song. But the funny thing about it, though, is that I saw her and her page, and I was like, man, she cute. Looking like a grown woman. Golly, is that her? Is that her husband? So anyway, then I got to reading her page, and I think on her page it said something about her being a preacher's daughter. And back in the day, I was like, whoa, hold on, wait a minute. I want to take that.
Yeah.
But anyway, make a long story short, after I reached out to her and started talking to her, she sounded nothing like my perception. Like I thought she was gonna be real laid back, shy, real conservative, but she sounded like some around the way type girl. And right there, boom, it just kind of intrigued me off the bat. And I think that's where that spark was. And the first time I met her, it was this tall, grown woman with this long hair, with these boots on. We were at the movie theater. I think it was Tinseltown. And I snuck up behind her. She had this leather jacket on. I think she had a red shirt on with some jeans.
He remember.
Now, I always had to ask the question down the road. She kind of understood why. But whenever I saw her, I used to always think like, man, is that her hers? Is that really her? Because where I come from, there was a lot of girls that just had, weave or whatnot, which is fine. I just always wonder what you really look like without it. So it's kind of rare to see, like a Black woman just appreciate her own features, let alone kind of take care of themselves, groom, and so on and so forth. So, you didn't see that too often. And so I really appreciate that off the bat. But yeah, that's our story. Yeah, we met online and gratefully it all worked out.
That's funny. That's funny that you mentioned that about like wearing your own hair and appreciating yourself and doing that. Because I remember when I first met Jamal, first met Jamal, but like early on, like I remember like I was like in my mind, like, okay, we're gonna go hang out today. And I was like, we weren't dating at that time, but we weren't in a relationship. We were just like in the beginning. And I was like, I want to make sure that he knows that I have natural hair and he needs to see what I really look like. So that if he don't like me now, then let's just go on. He can go and keep pushing because I need him to see. Because some guys, they just aren't interested in that. I was like, I don't waste my time if he doesn't like my natural hair.
As soon as I saw that too, I felt like I was like, come here, please, thank you, so much. Like that's what I wanted, and it's I always like to see her in her natural hair. She had an updo before she took it down when I walked in. I was like, oh no, is that white? We here right now? Okay.
What kind of
Yeah, it's kind of like you go to the store and, like a clothing store, and, you see this sweatsuit or whatnot you want to buy, but you're like, man, how's that going to look, on me? And sometimes you don't want to try it on, right? You just want to buy it and get on out of there instead of wasting time. And so, that's kind of how I looked at it. It's like, man, I get a chance to see you for you without having to worry about trying anything on and so on and so forth. And, to this day, I feel like, she's the same person that I saw, 15, 16 years ago. So when we wake up in the morning, she's the same person. I don't have to feel like, say, you want to go pick someone? Everybody goes somewhere. Want to cover that up? Yeah. That good wig on. Yeah.
So she's not waking up early in the morning to go and fix her face and put her wig on.
So Desiree, what was your first impression of him?
Well, okay, he cute. Okay. Back in the day when you younger, me growing up in Round Rock, as a Black girl in Round Rock, we thought it was a prize to date some dude from LBJ or Reagan. Okay. Yeah. Oh, we got a hood dude.
You went to LBJ?
He went to Reagan.
Oh, Reagan, right.
Yeah,
okay.
he went to Reagan. So, my first impression with him was he's a cool, laid back guy, He was cute, he had all the features that I liked and whatnot. He was easy to talk to. At first, it was kind of hard for me to try to understand him a little bit because he had the walls up. He wasn't trying to give me all the information. So I had to hit the walls down a lot. That was kind of I guess my first impression. It was about a year before I told my mom and daddy that I actually met him online. Because I knew that they weren't going to like that. So, but yeah, that was it.
That's the thing. I wonder, like, why there's such this like taboo, like thing about online dating, and it really doesn't make sense, especially now. I mean, I know kind of back then it was a little bit different, but even now in 2020, like people still kind of look at you kind of like, oh, you met them on, like, wait a minute. But it's really, I don't understand what the point is, like why people are so like feel some kind of way, like in their feelings, like why you meeting people online? Like you can't go and meet people.
Well, let me ask you this: do you think it's more of a male thing or a woman thing that feel that way?
I think it's kind of both. Because I've had conversations with guys and they kind of like smear their nose up at you, you know, if you tell them, oh, well, you know, I'm on Plenty of Fish or Bumble or whatever these dating websites are called these days. But then women, Farmers Only. But then women do the same thing. It's almost like they feel like because you met somebody online, like you don't have what it takes to meet somebody like out in public or whatever. But for me, I know I've dabbled in online dating. Jamal and I met online. Nobody really knows that story, so now you do. But yeah, and it's just like, it just kind of, for me, I think it was easier just because you kind of like get to talk to that person beforehand and you kind of can weed it out. And it's like, well, I don't have to keep going out with you. If I don't like you, I can just stop talking to you over the internet. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it's ever going to be normalized.
I think it is now. I mean, it's a lot of things that you can. I think the biggest concern that comes with it is being catfish, right?
Okay, yeah.
Nobody wants
That's
to be
true.
catfish, and so because like you think about it, you invested so much time, you kind of opened up, you become, you know, and for us men, I mean, unless you're not really just trying to, you know, you trying to actually connect with somebody, then you get catfish, you feel some type of way, and that turns you off from a lot of different things. And so, and going back to the first point about girls having natural hair, you show up and she bald, and she got the weave, and she got, you know what I'm saying, like, bruh, like my feelings is hurt. Like when I was younger, I used to be mad when I would see girls online, or just even like from afar, and I'm like, ooh, she cute, she got the body, she got the hair, she whoop, and then she got contacts. I feel like you're lying.
Hold on, I used to wear them.
I feel like you're lying.
So don't give me too much. I used to wear the contact. I used to make green,
Well,
blue.
well, I know from having girls and, you know, living with Desiree, I've kind of learned to have an appreciation for, you know, how they perceive themselves to be and how they feel like they want to present themselves. I've always looked at it the same as you, Jamal. It's just like, man, you know, is it something that you're covering up? Are you trying to make yourself to look better than what you actually are? But I think they're trying to more so give off how they feel, how they want to feel, more so how they want to look. But to your point, I think with online dating, you know, I kind of get concerned about the commitment, right? And just a quick story. So my kids, you know, our kids, they love to play Roblox. And the biggest thing with Roblox that sometimes I get concerned about is when they are communicating with people that I don't know who they are, they don't know who they are. And so I remember the first time when I heard them talk about their friends on Roblox. I'm like, what friends? He's like, yeah, I'm friends with this, you know, this girl named Cindy. I'm like, Cindy could be a 58-year-old man with a beard, you know, sitting there talking to you with a dress on. You don't know who that is. So I think it's kind of being able to have that maturity to understand, you know, what you're doing, what you're using it for, and not commit to it 100%. But I don't know that anybody kind of goes into that with quote unquote rules. You kind of go into it with, you know, open arms, just kind of trying to see what you can find more so. So I think for us, you know, that being able to find relationships through online dating, I think that's a blessing. That's a blessing in disguise. So I'm pretty sure there's a lot of horror stories just as much as there are successful attempts.
Most definitely.
That's true.
I mean, there's a whole show called Clipping.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Pretty scary. It can be kind of scary.
So to that point, my question is to you, bro. When did you know that she was the one?
Ooh, man. I'm sure every guy could kind of understand the kind of those pressures. And as I look back in hindsight, I kind of understand a little more when I started. Like I thought it was when I proposed, but it was more so when I started to feel that pressure to do it. Because I start to feel like you know, that's the next step. It's like there's no more running. kind of start to understand that everything that you were doing up to that point, you can't do anymore. You got to make a decision. Either you're going to go left or you're going to go right. And whether you want to or not, it's almost like the universe is pushing you in the direction of taking the next step forward. Whether you're scared, whether you just worried or what, you got to take that leap. But I would say probably for us, I mean, we were together for about 5 years before I proposed. And, that question obviously was always like, man, what's taking you so long? How long you? And, the old school tell you, man, don't get married. Don't get married. Don't change on you, man. Don't do it. And, your partners is like, man, you going to come out? Come on, man. You laid out there. So anyway, at some point, as you start to get older and you look at yourself, and I've always looked at her in admiration, going to school and becoming a nurse and kind of being on the straight and narrow, right? So some of the things that I was doing just in terms of, where I was in my life, she was like the opposite, right? And so it was almost like, man, I'm on this side of the street, she's on that side of the street. I would rather be on that side of the street than the street that I'm on right now. So there were some things that I started to do to kind of make sure that not only was I going to be more committed, but I was going to bring something to the table. So I think on that 5-year mark, I remember I was staying with a friend of mine. We were staying off of Grand Avenue, River Horse Ranch, and our lease was up. And so I kind of moved back in with my mama temporarily, and I'm talking to her, telling her, hey, I think I'm about to get my own spot. And she was like, no, you're not. No, I'm talking about you.
Oh.
She was like, no, you're not. Because I think for her, she felt like if I did that, that was going to prolong, whatever we had going on at that point. And I thought about it, and it's like, man, either I can go ahead and just do that, or I can go ahead and take that next step, because at that point, it's about time. And so I remember going to her parents' house and talking to her daddy, having to sit down. Now, mind you, I hadn't talked to anyone about it because my dad's passed away at 40. So, as a matter of fact, the year I think that I met her was when he passed away. The same month. And so it was kind of one of those deals where it was just an awkward space, and she was kind of in the right place at the right time, so to speak, because she was something that I didn't have at that point. So anyway, I had to sit down in front of her daddy. Now, mind you, this, I know I'm talking to Reverend Cook.
I was thinking that too. Like, oh man.
Man, I should have wrote down something. I should have put some ice in my pockets because I'm hot. I don't know what's going on. So anyway, I'm talking to him about, how I feel about his daughter and wanting his permission. And he's someone that puts thought into his words, and, he definitely, receives what you're saying. He leans back, he starts to get emotional. I'm like, whoa, hold on, wait a minute, why he getting emotional? And so we had this long conversation about, what it means to him, and he was happy to have me. He kind of started to say a lot of things that I didn't know. Like Desiree mentioned, our relationship at times in the beginning, I didn't know how it was going to be received because, I'm probably different than what he thought that she would be with, in terms of my family. In terms of established, right? Like I didn't come around with, I would say, stability, put it like that. I remember driving up to our house, and it's a quick story. I remember driving up to our house in this Mazda, it's this red Mazda, we called it Old Clifford. and I kid you not, my uncle, I was looking for a car. My uncle somehow got me to buy this car for like $800. Now, not thinking back, I'm like, 800, what was I thinking? So anyway, to start the car, I always had to pump the gas, boom, 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 boom. And you had to hit that ignition at a certain point, boom, 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 you hit so it can turn over. And I remember being in front of a house, trying to start the car, and it won't start. I'm like, there ain't no mom in the day. You all right? Like, oh, I'm good. Like, oh, come on. So anyway, I always thought that, he felt like she would meet a doctor and, just someone that off the bat that's going to take care of her. and financially, there's stability. And I just feel like, that wasn't me, right? I think we've all, as guys, we kind of feel like it's a me against the world mentality, so to speak, especially when you're meeting the dad off the rip. It's like, man, if he don't like me, who cares? That's that young mentality. But anyway, he started to
Oh, you're on mute.
he started to tell me a lot of things I didn't know. He felt about me, and we had a real good conversation. And after that day, I went up to her job and proposed to her at work.
Wow.
Wow, it worked.
Wow. I know all the girls was jealous, right?
Well, I actually pulled her away from where she was at.
Okay.
And and I pulled her away from where she was at. It's kind of like this entrance part, and there's this circular entrance where she worked at the time. And I got on the knee and proposed, and thankfully she said yes. But all that happened in the blur. But the biggest thing about it is that there wasn't a handbook for it. Like, there wasn't a manual. There wasn't anyone that I can go to talk to say, how do I do this? I just kind of went by how I felt, what was the best way to do it. And the biggest thing was just talking to her daddy. I think was the best thing that I did. So that was my story.
You was like, let me just go right now. I gotta go. She at work. I need to just go do this right
And I probably sat in the car for like 2 hours, just going back. Okay, I'm gonna do it again. Should I get on the left knee or the right knee? I mean, should I get on both knees?
Both knees look like
That's right.
Right. But what's funny is that how I tell my girls that story, right? And just kind of telling them things like that. The same way that I didn't know, I only knew from what I was told. And I kind of feel like with the girls, I am an example of what they feel like should happen when they get older. So when they meet someone, okay, you're supposed to talk to my dad. And I tell them this all the time. They start talking about some boy that likes them. No, he don't, because he ain't talked to me yet. He come talk to it. Till he come talk to me, he don't like it. He don't like it till he gotta say it to my face. If he can't say it to my face, then he ain't talking about nothing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They laugh all the time, but yeah, I just tried to do what I thought was best.
That's what's up. That's what's up. So Desiree, what makes you say yes, all things considered?
Oh, I mean, I was ready after we together for a year.
Right?
So I mean, really, I was just waiting on him. I was ready. I mean, so it was just more him. I mean, I had my timetable to where, I was in nursing school and all that stuff. So I knew that I wasn't trying to make any moves until after nursing school. But I think once I graduated, he knew that was what was next. And so it's either, is that what we're gonna do, or we not doing that? What's it gonna be? Because I got time scheduled. I wanted to be married right after I got out of nursing school. I wanted to have my first child when I was 26, or 27, 26.
You got married at 26.
26.
26.
No, I had her the year before. I mean, the month before I turned 27.
Yeah.
I wanted to have my first house before I was 30. Like, I had goals.
Yeah.
So either you coming along with the goals, or somebody else coming along with the goals.
That's the pressure I'm talking about. You see that? That's the pressure.
Accordingly.
That's the pressure I'm talking about right there. That schedule wasn't given to me.
Right. And that's something that is interesting, because we had this conversation a little earlier in our relationship. I think even around the time where I started to feel that gravity of, okay, it's coming. I got to make sure I get myself ready too. And one of the things that she was kind of explaining to me, I think Desiree can resonate with, is like you guys already have a plan for what the next 5 years is going to look like, right? And so a part of that plan requires a partner, right? Like, requires, like, so you can have a baby with anyone because of science, but you want to have a father for that baby, and that requires for him to be a husband, for him to be this, and him to be that, right? And so it's interesting because you guys, and I think statistically it shows across the board, Black women are the most educated, right? The most mature early on. And so they already know exactly what they're looking for. The thing that holds them back is, being patient and having to be patient for that right person to come along, right? And so the ball is really in our court, right? Because you can see that there's people that's been in relationships for 15 years, and y'all been boyfriend and girlfriend since y'all was knee high to a grasshopper and beyond, and he still ain't proposed. But then they break up, and then 6 months later, he found a girl, and it's everything that he wanted. Boom, he proposed right there, right? And so my point is, I think it's interesting just to see, the power dynamics of the role of the man and the role of the woman. And like for us, at least for me, I can say before I met her, I was 26 and I had just got I had my car for a little bit, just graduated from college, just got my first apartment. So I'm like, I'm in bachelor mode. Like you can't tell me nothing, right? You know what I'm saying? And so I wasn't really thinking about, the next step of getting married in the next few years or buying a house and doing all this stuff. I'm focusing on just still trying to get my stuff straight and sustain what I have, period. You know what I'm saying? So when she came along, she already had that mindset of like, no, this is where I'm at. And she's older than I am. I'm just saying.
It's out like that.
It's facts. It's facts. Even though you don't always act like it, you know what I'm saying? That's well, anyway, as I digress. Um, but no, it was definitely the best way I can put a gravity to that moment where I had to say, okay, am I gonna jump on board? Am I gonna do this? And kind of like how you felt, bro, when you're going to her father and you're saying, in my mind, this is how it was for me, was like, okay, I'm asking to step into the covering that you have over your daughter. And I know I can never be her father. I'm not trying to be that. But the only thing I can be is a man that loves her just as much as you do, right? And so in that space, he's and you know this, you're a father, you got two girls. You know what it's like to hold them for the first time, right? And you're like, oh my God, I gotta take care of this life, right? And for me with her, we don't have kids yet, but it was kind of like that moment where it hit like, oh snap, like I'm gonna have to be responsible for this life and be willing to give my heart and my life to her and put my heart in her hands, right? Like, can we do this? Can I do this? That's kind of how it was. So for you guys, I want to know what is your top two love languages and how do you guys love each other in those spaces? And did you have to learn how to love each other through those in those categories, or was it just like easy that you already knew?
You go first.
Yeah, you go first, that one.
That was a somewhat of a learning curve. I think off the bat, I saw that she was a daddy's girl, right? Like she was a daddy's girl, and even off the bat, attention was a big thing for her. She wanted attention, and I'm the type of person I don't need a lot of attention. Matter of fact, you know what? I'm gonna be off and over here. I'm good. I'm just gonna chill. And so when someone is kind of always wanting to require my attention, and I tell her all the time is that I've realized that I don't do well with people sweating me for attention, really. Because I'm just not that type of person. But for me though, I will give you attention. Like my love language is like I want to touch you, right? Like I want to rub you. I want to sit there and start caressing you. But for her, she don't like that. Like she like, hey, I need my space. No blood. Give me 50 feet. I'm like, come on, let me just a little bit.
Yeah.
How's that a little bit? So she likes her space. But I think she definitely loves the fact that I'm a doer. Right, like I will do. She can ask me for anything. I can be sleepy. I can be tired. I can have a million things to do, but I will try and do whatever it is that you ask me to do. And so I think that's one thing for her that compliments me is that I'm a doer and she's a receiver, right? Or I'm a doer and she's an asker, put it like that. So I think that's how we work together in terms of our love languages. I try to respect her space, and I wait for her to, ask me, when she needs anything. And that's been the biggest learning curve for me over the years.
And I think for me, like I know that he likes to be touched and stuff, And like he says, I'm like, go on. So, so I try to make sure that even though that's not something that I like, I'll try to come and, touch him a little bit. He likes to be rubbed on his head or, his nails, mess with his fingernails, just small things like that. So, I try to make sure that I do get back to him. And then also just, I think he likes words of affirmation or what, just encouragement and, just stuff. He's doing something good, let him know, hey, Bob, baby, you doing good. Or let's say, he over here building something because he think he a DIYer, Joanne and Chip. And in my mind, I'm like, what is this fool doing? But, I come, oh, babe, okay, that's what's up.
I know that.
Oh, man.
So, yeah, we try to make it work. We make it work. Understand each other.
I think that's the difficult part about love languages is because sometimes like we know, or just the individual, they know kind of what they want, but it's hard. Sometimes it's harder to kind of not always make it about yourself. Like, okay, well, I just need this, but you have to remember that you have to also kind of give it to the next person and give it to that person. Jamal's the same way. He his love language is physical touch, and I'm just like, I don't understand why you always touching me. But I'm over here like, okay, well, I need this, and I'm wanting him to do it. I have to remember, like, okay, it's give and take. Like, you have to give him what he needs. He has to give you what you need, and vice versa. So that's something that I've been working on. So it is a learning curve. When you're not a person who's always like, touchy, then it kind of makes it like, okay. But you kind of have to remove yourself from the equation.
Yeah. I mean, I think her love language is words of affirmation and acts of service. She's a giver, like giver. And so for me, I've been able to learn about how to be a better giver from her, for sure. And really just to be more patient. Like for me, I like being direct and addressing facts, but sometimes I have to be very patient and come from the approach of seek understanding before being understood. Right. And so in that space, I realized that I needed to just make sure that I'm showing her like I'm genuinely interested in how you're feeling, right? And I'm trying to still become a better listener because that's something I'm still struggling with, and she gets on me about that all the time. But I think the best thing that has helped us in regards to how we communicate to each other is taking off the labels, right? And so what that means for us is, we have expectations and we know that there's roles and things that we expect from each other. That when we're trying to communicate, we're coming from the assumption of you should know this because you're my husband, right? So when we take off the labels, we say, okay, look, well, in this moment, I'm not. Don't look at me or address me as your husband. Don't address me as your fiance. Don't address me as your boyfriend. Address me as your friend, right? So let's start there because we're friends first, right? So as my friend, this is, if you really care about me as my friend first, then this is how I'm feeling. This is what I would like for you to know, and this is what I would like for you to change, and this is what that change looks like, right? And if we can't get it right on that level, there's no reason for us to even get to that level of husband and wife. At least that's what's
you can't communicate as friends. I think that was something early on that Jamal and I did really good. It wasn't like, because we were friends for a really long time before we got in a relationship. But it was just one of those things where it's like it doesn't really like as your friend, like I don't care about any other thing, but this is how I feel about this. And I think that was one of the biggest takeaways that I took from when we did marriage counseling was like just making sure your expectations are known. Because like you said, like you can't assume that that person kind of knows what you feel. And I can't assume that he knows this is what I'm feeling unless I tell him. Like, you know, if it's something I'm wanting to go out this weekend, like if I don't tell him that and then we don't end up doing anything and it's 10 o'clock at night, but I'm in my feelings. But it's like, well, what's wrong with you? And it's like, well, we were supposed to go out today. And he's like, well, you didn't tell me that that's what you were wanting. And so I think that's like one of the biggest things is just making sure that your expectations are clearly stated so that there's really no confusion of like, okay, well, this is what I'm wanting, this is what I'm asking, this is what I'm needing. So.
Yeah, I remember in our relationship, especially getting married, I thought I wouldn't say I was perfect, but I thought, obviously not perfect, but I thought I went into it knowing, you know, what I should do, what I should be, all these different things. But then you find out just how much marriage is hard work, right? Like the expectation that you have at any one moment can change the next moment. And especially when you go through life events, you know, whether it's having kids, buying houses, moving, jobs, careers, schedules, all those different things, you don't know what you don't know. And so my expectation soon became is that, man, I need to be flexible. I need to be agile. There's times where, and obviously we had 2 girls, and when we had kids, or when we were having kids, I was always waiting on that boy. Like I was always waiting on that, ooh, he come, and then boom, 2 girls. I'm like, man, what I'm gonna do with girls? But the biggest thing was that with our schedules were a lot of times were opposite. So there were often to where it was just me and it was just the girls. And so over the years, I had to learn how to be a dad to these girls while being a husband, you know, by myself sometimes, either by myself with her, not having time, sacrificing a lot. And so I quickly learned like, man, I have to just be agile and I have to be flexible. And with being in a house full of girls, you know, I quickly learned like I have to be, you know, understanding. And it used to be facts over feelings. Now it's more so feelings over facts, especially with the girls, because they don't care about facts. They don't care about facts. And sometimes like I can be giving them attention. And Desiree is like, what about me? I'm like, okay, then focus on you. And the girl is like, what about me? It's like, I can't win. So now I gotta figure out a way to kind of make it work. And it's all hard work, and it's all just trying, you know, not being perfect, but just trying more so than anything.
Yeah, definitely. Feelings over facts. That's really true, actually.
Oh man, my bad, man.
I'm about to sign up for a class.
That's true. If my feelings are hurt or whatever, like it doesn't matter if you're telling me facts because like you have to like get to like how I'm feeling right now before I'm really gonna be receptive to what you're telling me. I'm sure that is facts. My feelings are hurt. So you have to address the fact that my feelings are hurt right now. And then start talking about this is okay, you was wrong, but this X, Y, and Z. But you got to get to my feelings first.
Well, I'm a logical dude, right? Like I think, you know, 1 + 1 is 2, but for her, she doesn't think like that. And so I can be stuck in my facts. She can be stuck in her feelings, but I feel like I have a little more energy to give to where I can say, okay, let's work on these feelings first, and then we'll come to the facts. Right. And that was a hard lesson to learn because for her, you know, she's all feelings. And sometimes, and I think for me, I process things probably a little better in the bigger picture. And so I can think ahead, and I can think a few moves ahead, and that's probably what she benefits from me. And that's another thing I have to understand is that, you know, I should allow her to benefit from me being mindful of that as we work together on that. So it's like a process. You know, every situation is a process. It has context. But I just start with, okay, let me see how she feels about it, and then we can talk about the facts.
Right.
Yeah. I agree. Like, and that goes back to like my I guess my philosophy, at least in this relationship, is seek understanding before being understood. Because if I can understand how you're processing things, then that means I can communicate what I'm trying to say to you and fit that process, right? And so that's something outside of the labels that's definitely helped us. And so in that, I know when communication and conflict, it brings out the best in us and sometimes the worst in us, right? And so I wanted to know, have you guys um, been at the place where you feel like you've seen the worst in each other, and what does that look like, and what was that experience, and what was the place where you feel like you've seen the best in each other? How did you guys, um, I guess, reconcile or really get to that point?
So I would say, like, honestly, out of the 16 years that we've been together, him and I have never had just a disagreement so bad to where it was just a blowout. You know, I think one thing with us being together for 5 years before we got married, we knew who we were. You know, we were good friends, and when we got married, I mean, we rarely get into any disagreement. And if we do, you know, it's talked about, you know, respectfully. One thing that he has taught me when we were first dating was I kind of yelled a lot. And I think I raised my voice at him one time, and he told me at that one time, "You're not gonna do that no more." And that was the last time I did that. You know, So I feel like that's good. So I mean, if we're talking about like when we seeing each other at our best and at our worst, it's more so in my experience with him when we were dating, just in his living situation. Like you say, you know, we were both brought up in two different worlds, pretty much. And when we were dating, he eventually had to move out of his mom's house, and he was kind of house to house. And if you kind of think about it, he was kind of considered homeless in a way. I mean, he was living in places, but he was living in places that weren't necessarily good for a human being, I would say, you know. You know, I mean, he was living at a friend's house to where, you know, this friend had really not that much electricity. The bathroom was nasty. There was rats in the walls, you know. I mean, it was just nasty. So, you know, he was walking to the bus stops and all that kind of stuff. So that's where I kind of saw him at his lowest, and he wouldn't take handouts from anybody. You know, I'm like, hey, you know, I can do this for you. You know, I talked to my mom and daddy. You can come and stay with us, but you just got to go sleep in the other room. You know, or whatnot. And he wanted to do it on his own and figure it out. So I would say that's when I saw him at his lowest, and he worked it out, he figured it out, and he got himself out of that situation and got to, you know, where he is now. Well, we did that together. We did that together. But that's where I've seen him at his lowest. And then with him just in his best, I mean, I feel like he's at his best all the time. I mean, I'm biased, you know. I think
Go ahead, speak on your husband. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think he's perfect. I mean, I mean, everybody has their faults, but he's a great husband, and he's a great father, you know. And I've seen his best come out with the girls and how he just interacts with the girls, and he's just so involved. And I always tell him, like, you're doing too much, you know, chill out. You can go sit down. I mean, I don't want to do it. You don't have to do it. Go sit down. You know, he's always trying to do the most. But that's who he is, and that's how he shows his love to the girls and stuff like that. So that's kind of where I see him at his best.
Yeah. And I think for her, I mean, shoot, I've seen some lows from her. And I remember when she graduated from nursing school and she first started working as a nurse. And she was excited. But I think maybe after about the second, third, fourth day home from work, she came home feeling overwhelmed, and she was crying. You know, she can do it. It's just a lot. She's tired. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. And we just kind of talked it through. And I told her, you know, she didn't have to worry about anything at home, or, you know, I cook, I clean, so on and so forth. And fast forward, she's a great nurse now. And I also remember when we were having our first kid, we were having Daisy, our oldest, and her first trimester was horrible. I feel like I was pregnant because it was so horrible. I mean, she couldn't get out of bed. She was throwing up all the time. I mean, she was hungry because she didn't want to eat. But if she didn't eat, she would throw it up. Like her stomach would feel worse. And I was like, man, I ain't never seen something like this before. I don't know what to do. Is she sick? Is something going on? She got a disease? I don't know. It was just that first trimester, and she would cry, and she was losing weight. And I feel like that was one of her lowest. But to be able to see her mature over the years, I can remember feeling like, man, she depends on me for a lot. I don't know how this is gonna go. But having kids, and as you said, her dream was to have a house. For me, we would have still been in apartments to this day. I didn't care one I didn't care one bit, but it was her motivation, her perseverance with being able to get a house, moving forward with what we needed to do. I mean, she's real good with finances, definitely saving. She will penny pinch. She would penny pinch the mess out of the bank account. Doing the girls' hair, making sure the girls are up to par. Like she's really come a long way from what I thought to where she is right now. But I think that's just kind of the maturation process of getting older, being mature, and just taking your responsibilities how they come. So she's become a great mother. But yeah, there was some times too. I remember in the beginning when she used to, I think it was probably like year 3 that we were dating, and she used to sweat me a lot. Like she used to sweat me. I just wanted to do my thing. Like I just wanted to, a lot of times for me back in the day, it was just when the weekends came or getting a chance to go kick it with my friends and kind of getting away from things, it was much more of an outlet for me than what she understood. She didn't understand a lot of things as far as, like she said, conditions, or why is it this? Or how come you got to do it by yourself? How come nobody's helping you? And it was one of those things where you have a lot of questions, but there aren't any answers for those questions that you have. There's only, dealing with it. And for me, I looked at her as, she's just not understanding. But throughout the years, though, I started to grow up and start to realize it's just, she shouldn't be able to understand. Like her parents did a good job with, what they had. So anyway, make a long story short, she's definitely been someone that I thought that she could be, but I didn't know she would reach that potential. But she eventually did. So she's been a great mother. So those are my lows and highs.
It's always good to get the backstory. Like some people, I think in relationships, like especially young couples, like Jamal and I, sometimes I can, listen to people and they just make it seem like everything is like rainbows and butterflies. Like they don't really realize that there are, storms across the way and across the, the timeline of you being in a relationship, you being in a marriage and things like that. And just remembering to be realistic with your expectations. So yeah.
Definitely gotta be realistic.
I think with having kids, we've taken a back seat, so to speak, with in terms of I guess it's really they've become like our life, so to speak. Yeah, so it's kind of one of those things to where that's where our focus is most of the time, especially as they get older and trying to constantly. I guess that's definitely for me with having girls, and you constantly trying to figure out, okay, how do I want to raise them? You're trying to look out for little things, little subtle things that you need to, focus or correct. And that's, so for us, I mean, anytime we get a chance to maybe sit down and watch a movie, right? Like okay, cool, let's get some Moscato, so let's, matter of fact, give me 2 bottles of Moscato.
Have some you time, yeah.
Yeah. And that's the one of the questions I want to ask you guys next is, that's, I guess, the next step for us, right? Is preparing to have kids and stuff like that. So, in what ways did you start to see you need to make adjustments within your relationships to stay in love there, and because sometimes you can get focused on, okay, I'm in my role, I'm in my lane, I'm doing my job, and then you realize that you guys are both going this way, right? So how did you guys stay here?
I go first.
I think there's different stages too, as
Yeah.
they're getting older, there's
Yeah.
different stages that you have to regroup it and rethink it and stuff. But I'll let you go.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think again, it's kind of really, I think that's a personal effort. Like it's hard to make it a team effort, especially depending on careers and what you got going on. Like for me, I work from home. And I work from home, and I feel like sometimes I feel like a lot of times she feels like, well, you work from home, you good, like you at home, da, da, da. But I have to remind her, yeah, I'm working from home. I'm cooking, I'm cleaning, and especially during the pandemic. I mean, at the beginning of the year, it was working from home, being a teacher, being a cook, and then she come home, hey, did you cook? Oh man, this is like, man, she come home, you worry about what food is. Golly, I'm stressed out. But anyways, it's understanding that, those times are gonna come. And so I try to make a personal effort to not jump to conclusions, right? So if I can do it, I'm gonna do it. And I don't wait or expect her to do it. So I do what I can do within the realm of what I fit in. And I expect that from her the same way, not for her to kind of do exactly what I do. But, if I wake up one morning and, she's cleaned up the kitchen, boom, that gives me confidence that, okay, I'm not the only one. If I, come home and she cooked breakfast, like, cool, okay, cool. So it's kind of like not playing tit for tat, but just that confirmation of, hey, you're willing to help. That's all I need to know. I don't need you to hand and foot every single day. It's just every now and then. And I try to take that and appreciate that, not through quantity, but just the fact that she will do. And so it's the little thing, because we're having kids, man. It's, you kind of got to take it how it goes. Like I can do more. And I think somebody else told me a while back, and it's kind of what I mentioned before, is that I shouldn't try to get her to be like me. I should want her to benefit from how I am, and I should benefit from how she is. Kind of like those opposite, right? The yin and the yang. So the fact that I'm a doer, and the fact that, she's not necessarily as much of a doer, but she's a saver, right? She, we don't take the girls to go get their hair done. She does them, right? And she works hard at what she does, where she makes more money than I do. So I got to appreciate that, right? She making what she's making. And it's like, okay, cool. Well, let me hold it down. She got to stay, work late or whatnot. I should be good with that. I should be fine. Those are my kids, just like they're her kids. What if I was a single father? I should be able to do this. I should be able to cook. I should be able to clean. So I don't look to measure up to what I think she should do. I just do whatever it is that I can do within what I know.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, it's teamwork. If you feel like the other one is doing all the stuff and you're just sitting, just chilling, waiting hand and foot, you're gonna have issues. The other important thing is just trying to make time for each other. Like I said, it's all in different stages. I mean, when you have a newborn, you're sleep deprived half the time. If you're breastfeeding, you as the wife, the mom, you feel like you have to do everything and they're not doing nothing. So then that's when, the husband comes in and is doing other things, kind of pick up the slack, so it doesn't feel like that you're the main one doing everything, And then when the baby is asleep, try to get a little bit of quality time in before y'all go take y'all nap, because at that time you're supposed to sleep when that baby sleep, but that's when you're sleeping, And then of course, as the kids get older and, start to have extracurricular activities and stuff like that, your weekends, your life is just, it revolves around them. So when there is some kind of downtime to where y'all can sit and watch a movie and just enjoy yourself and your time while the kids are asleep or while the kids are upstairs watching TV, something like that, take those moments, because it's hard to get those date nights and everything and trying to find babysitters and stuff like that, especially during this pandemic. I feel like that Dawn and I, my mom and dad were kind of more of our primary babysitters, and since the pandemic has gone on, we've kind of lost that because they're in that kind of older crowd, so we want to protect them. So it's more of us trying to figure out, okay, how can we kind of get our time when we're trying to get away from these girls, and we really can't get that right now. So it's more so, okay, well, what can we do as a family to what all of us can enjoy? Maybe just go do bowling more, go to our arcades more, just do things that we all kind of enjoy, to where we're kind of getting our time, but the kids are getting time as well as being with us. So that's just something just kind of, just keep in mind when you have kids. And I'm sure when they get older, we're gonna go into another stage to where we're gonna have to figure that out.
Yeah, I would say in terms of advice, and I used to tell Desiree this all the time when the girls were younger, especially Daisy. And she used to be picky about who she let watch the girls.
You touch everybody.
And my biggest thing was that, man, we need to have someone that watches them since they were a baby, that can kind of grow with them, that we can kind of depend on. But she used to be so picky. She didn't want nobody but a mom and a daddy watching the girl. So fast forward, it's like, man, we wish we had someone that, definitely for me, like I wish I had someone, especially an older girl, teen or early 20, whatnot, because as they get older, they start looking for role models, mentors, mentees, or whatnot. And what you say can only go so far, right? And so sometimes they get something from someone else and they hear it as that's good as gold, as opposed, man, didn't I tell you? I already told you that. You told me that a long time ago, but she tell you, and all of a sudden. But anyway, if you have someone that can grow with the kids at an early age, it benefits you, it benefits them, because at some point you're going to look for some type of child care, not necessarily through child care, daycare, school, but more so someone to sit down with them, just have conversations, someone to just take them to the movies, someone to just play with them, take them to the park, that just gives them that attention. And that's one thing that I wish that we've had, is just a constant presence of someone else that's an example for them that we trust. Because it's hard. It's hard. And I have a whole story about what we went through at that beginning of the time. But that's for another day.
Another episode.
Yeah.
Well, I have one. Well, really, I guess it's two questions. I'm trying to figure out which one I want to ask the most. But I guess I'll start here. What is the biggest accomplishment that you see in your spouse that you think that they fail to realize? And so that would be the first question. And then the second question is, I guess it's not. It's a part B to it. But what is the best piece of relationship advice that you've been given? So question number one, to wrap this up, it would be, what is the biggest accomplishment that you've seen in your partner that you think that they fail to realize? And then number two, segueing out, what is the greatest piece of relationship advice that you've been given?
Which one you want to take? One split up? Take one, you take one. Which one you want?
You take the first one.
The first one was biggest accomplishments that she may not have realized. Wow, I think her biggest accomplishment in the roundabout way was, I hate to say it, but I'll admit it.
Don't put my business out.
No. It's not about you, more so about me. Like I feel like she's raised me, so to speak.
What do you mean by that?
Man, from where before I met her, it felt like I kind of grew up in a bubble. And when I used to go to her house and they stayed out in Round Rock, we used to call it the castle. Man, look at this castle you stay in. God, they did crazy. How you do white folks, they crazy. Anyway, I used to go out there and people used to wave at me. I'm like, man, why you waving at me? I don't even know them. I'm like, they got it. She was like, they just being nice. And the only restaurants I knew was Golden Corral, Luby's, and IHOP. And so I started dating her, and she taking me to Bennigan's and Saltgrass Steakhouse. I'm like, man, this is great.
Yeah.
Taking my pockets, like, man, I ain't really got to. So anyway, she really kind of exposed me to, to just a different, not necessarily a lifestyle, but that there were more than what I've seen before, right? I think when I was younger, I felt like, I've kind of been there, done that. Only to really find out, it's like, man, I almost feel like I've been sheltered, right? Like I didn't really go out of Austin unless it was some sort of sporting event or whatnot. So anyway, it was her that, wanted to, even when we moved to an apartment, it was like luxury apartments. Like, look, to me, I was like, man, it don't matter to me. We just go up the street. You know, I don't really care. And it was her that wanted to make sure we had a certain amount of savings. It was her that wanted to make sure we buy a house. Like that was, we gonna buy a house. And so going through, and those are kind of like the bigger things, but seeing her drive in terms of career-wise, like she started out as just an RN, but now she's the director of, director of hospice, right? Like being, and mind you, I just told you a while back that when she first started, she was crying, she was overwhelmed. And so being able to see her climb, what I only wanted to support it, right? I just wanted to get behind it, like, hey, go do your thing, just, you know, keep it moving. So being able to see her kind of go through all of that, and for me to begin with, feeling like, man, you know, she's been sheltered by her daddy. Like her daddy didn't let her do this, she didn't do that, she hadn't experienced that. And only for me to find out it was me that really was sheltered. And so, which is crazy. So that's the one thing for her, is that I feel like she's raised me as an adult. And I, you know, for me, losing my dad at an early age, I didn't get a chance to ask him a lot of these things because, you know, I had a closer relationship to my dad than my mom. So I didn't get a chance to ask him, man, how did you do this? Or how did you propose? Or, man, you know, when your girl is doing this, or what did you do, you know, with mama and this and that? So it was just me just trying to put my best foot forward. And a lot of times it was kind of following her and just trying to make sure I didn't mess it up. Pretty much. You got the other one.
I'm glad this is recorded.
We might have to cut down that last part out.
That's all right, baby. That's all right.
Oh man.
And then what the second question was, a piece of advice?
Yes, best relationship advice.
Relationship advice. So I think, well, I'm pretty sure everybody says this, but it's just, I think one is communication. Just making sure that you're communicating and not really assuming stuff. And, you know, that's something that I have learned as we've been together and grown in our relationship. You know, I thought that he was a mind reader, and you're not a mind reader. So, you know, it's communicating, doing things, seeing the relationship as not a 50-50, you know, you're supposed to do this and this is your role, doing it together. You know, I think a lot of people are kind of going out of that old school, you know, relationships to where, you know, the wife is, you know, you know, the wife is doing everything and the husband is out at work, and then he come home with a dinner on the table and he sits down, that's it. You know, I think everybody's kind of going out of that role. So, you know, as long as, you know, y'all have, I don't think we have to go to where doing, I'm like, you're taking the trash out. You know, if the trash needs to be taken out, I may not want to do it, but if he hadn't done yet, then let me go and go do it, you know. So we're just picking up each other's slack. And then just, you know, love your spouse's, you know, faults and they're good, and help them to grow. You know, praise them when they're doing good, and if they're doing bad, then, you know, talk it through. You know, get through it together, and stay committed. You know, and don't let the outside world influence your relationship, your home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and to piggyback on that, I would say too, you know, it's about what you believe in. I think we both, not in terms of religion, but what you believe in terms of your relationship, and like what you believe in the fact of why you with her or why you with him, what you believe in you know, in their intentions, right? Because everybody makes mistakes, nobody's perfect. But I believe that, you know, you love me the way that I love you. I believe that you have my best interests. So I start with what I believe in more so than even sometimes what I see. Because sometimes you may see them, you know, at their worst, in their worst day, a bad day, they're, you know, sleepy or laziness, so to speak. So just because in that moment that moment isn't the reason that I'm with you. That moment isn't the reason why I love you. I love you for life. I'm committed for life, you know, from beginning to end. And so you start there and build that foundation from there. Everything else is just, can be workable. Everything else is doable. Everything else doesn't matter because what we believe in is more important than the moment, right? It's much more about the long run and the commitment. And that's why I try to. And my last point, I never really, when I was younger, I never really got why, like my parents or grandparents or whatnot talked about don't have kids until you marry. And one of the things that, to a longer story, was that I never wanted to find, I mean, I love my mama, but I never wanted to find my mama for a lot of different reasons. But one of the things that I slowly realized is that if you're not committed when you have kids, it's gonna be rough. But not because just having kids is rough, because what you believe in won't make sense, right? If we weren't married, that I wouldn't be as committed probably. She may not be as committed to me. She may not believe in me. I mean, but it's because we went through the road that we went through and we got married and she waited for me for 5 years, right? And because she waited, I know that she's patient and she believes in me. Like she said, she wanted to get married probably within the year. She wanted to have kids within the year, but she chose to wait. And she chose to wait for a reason. So I try to preach that to the girls is that, hey, this is why you wait till you marry, is because you need that commitment. You need that commitment to believe in. Sometimes you need that commitment to carry you through your relationship, because that's all you're gonna have at the end of the day is the commitment. You may not feel like they love you. You may not feel like they're thinking about you, but you know they're committed. And sometimes that's the thing you have to go out for.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. And I would say to that point and wrapping up, and is one of the biggest factors that let me know that she was the one was knowing that I had a good example with my parents and seeing how they were able to make things work for us, and even learning from our family and things of that nature. But the biggest thing that that really was the heart of the decision was saying that if I die tomorrow and my kids are still here, and the things that I believed in while I was on this earth are going to be reciprocated and duplicated in them when I'm gone, right? And do I think that they will be in good hands, and do I trust her enough to know that she got it, right? And that was like certain areas of my life and certain areas of our relationship that she proved it above and beyond, that she is committed to me 100% and is willing to do whatever, and willing to take my BS and call it out, you know what I'm saying, and willing to keep me, and I think you agree on this too, keep me on the best version of myself, right? And so she's inspired me and has achieved different things that I still to this day scratch my head to how as to how she did it. All things considered, with dealing with family, dealing with time management, dealing with loss, dealing with just the things that this world brings, that we have to navigate through, especially as African American people in this country, right? So to that point, man, it's been, I think, the greatest gift that I've received since I've been alive. Outside, obviously, my parents giving life to me, but yeah. So, in this moment, I want to say, let's take some time just to tell each other we love each other. You know what I'm saying? And y'all tell y'all each other how much y'all love each other, and then we'll wrap it up and close out the kingdom. So, yeah. So I just want to tell you first, I love you, love, and that I'm so happy with you, and that I'm excited about all the things that God has in store for us. I know this is just the beginning, and it's crazy to think in a few weeks, in March officially, we'll be married for a whole year. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that first year, man. wait till it's 5 years and 10 years. I mean, at the beginning, it feels like it's long, but I mean, we're going into, it'll be our 12th year next August. And it feels like it went by just like that. And it's funny because sometimes things seem simple. But then I realized, like, especially for her, I mean, I love her, and things can only get as complicated sometimes as we make it. And so I think we nowadays we try to keep things simplified, you know, keep them simple, especially when you have kids. And I definitely look forward to many more years with you.
My beautiful self.
I'm pretty sure y'all will be right behind us. I can't wait for y'all to have y'all's first child. That's gonna be exciting. Just get ready for it. To sleep this night. That's gonna be another key thing. Sleep, man. Get your sleep, because when I was younger, I used to be able to just sleep for about 3 hours and just wake up and I'm good. I'll take a nap later. Now, I'm a whole different creature. I don't get that sleep.
Yes, I would be right.
Whole different creature.
We're excited about that phase of life, that journey, but you know, it's all in God's timing. We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens.
So how many kids are in the future? How many kids are y'all thinking of having? 2, 3?
Personally, want like 3. Mom only wants 2.
I'm saying 2, 3 will be an
We'll
accident.
see. We'll see.
Look, I said 4.
Oh,
but
wow.
But when I had that second one,
You
I said, we done.
That's all it is. I mean, I think if we had a girl and a boy, I think maybe it would have probably been ideal just in terms of, you know, I get my boy, she get her girl. But I think the fact that we had 2 girls was too much for her, and 2 girls were too much for me. So we spent a lot of energy trying to kind of really curve our expectations and make it and be appreciative of what we have. And obviously we love them. But that's where we said, we're like, you know what? We can't have another girl. 2 girls. That's it. I can't do it. And everyone always, you don't want to try with that boy? Nope.
It might happen.
Don't let me get a third girl. Ain't no take backs.
Yeah.
Girls are a different, I mean, because, you know, growing up a girl, like, girls are a different beast. Like, I can only imagine how it was for my baby when I was growing up. So I can only, like, imagine what it is for you and for any other guy that has only daughters. It's just like, wow.
Yeah.
And I have a younger brother and I have an older brother. She has 2 younger brothers, so neither one of us grew up with sisters. So
it's just me. Yeah, so I get it. I'm the baby. So, and I've got 2 older brothers. I can.
Yeah, you super poor.
It comes out all the time. Oh my God. So that's something I joke around with too. I'm like, you know, I pray just for a healthy, breathing, functioning, beautiful baby. But I'm like, bro, DJ, if we do got one, there you go. You know? So, and then, you know, I feel like now I'm like, as soon as I find out that we have a girl, I'm setting up a separate offshore account.
Girls keep you on your toes.
I mean, that's what I'm saying, because I feel like if I get that knock and there's somebody trying to say, hey, I'm here to take the daughter out, I'm like, okay, hey, get the shotgun. You know what I'm saying? You got the account number, bail me out, but look, where we going? You know what I'm saying?
Girls
Type
keep
thing.
you on. I tell my dad all the time.
Listen, that's a whole that's one thing that I'm learning even right now. Like, I have a 10-year-old right now and I have an 8-year-old. And the funny thing is that my 8-year-old is kind of much more on that boy talk than my 10-year-old. And yeah, my 8-year-old is she's much more like Desiree. But she's much more into her feelings, right? And she's, you know, she says what she thinks. It was one time, I mean, you can't take her anywhere to work without her just saying something. Like, oh, wait, don't say this.
Yeah.
But anyway, is the conversations I have with her, it's like, man, sometimes you gotta pick your poison, right? Like you want to say I'm daddy and because I said so, or do you want to be involved in those conversations to help guide them and steer them? And man, when I tell you that's been kind of something that's just new territory. Like I thought that this is what, like you said, man, no boys, da da da. But you can't keep them from the world, right? And it's even with the social media stuff, it's like, man, you know, I mean, we were fortunate enough to grow up in the world where there was no, you know, it wasn't from the internet to it becoming internet. Like there was no cell phones, so we kind of exist in both. So we know, like, hey, you don't need these things. They don't know that, right? You know, like my oldest,
All they know.
my oldest had an Instagram account. We were like, whoa, where did this come from? Damn, shut it down. Got that camera. Shut it down. But in the same sense, it's like, man, it's here. So how do I be a part of it? Because if you don't want to be a part of it, then you're not. And she's gonna have one way or another eventually. So I mean, right now the big thing is the cell phone. It's like, man. But you know, the iPhones, they pretty much, Apple makes it to where you can kind of really control and dictate a lot of what they do on those phones. So those are conversations that we having now. But yeah, girls are just keeping you on your toes, man, with the details. It is the detail. With boys, it's like, hey, take this ball going out there. With girls, it's like, hold on, what time is it? Who you out there? Wait, hold on, you playing with girls or boys? Wait a minute, put this on. No, you ain't going out there, them little old
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna have to, when that time does come, we're gonna have to have you guys back on for a parenting podcast.
Oh man.
We can share our parenting lessons and skills and tips and tricks and stories.
Do's and don'ts.
The do's and
Mistakes. We can tell you about the mistakes, man, because there's a lot of them, boy. It is a lot of them. But you learn from the mistakes and you appreciate the mistakes, because I always tell Desiree about the opportunities. Sometimes when we go through things, you know, those hard times are opportunities, right? Like a lot of times I can't wait to flex on them when they do something bad, because I'd rather do it now than 15, 16. Because 15, 16, at least I feel like I'm going to be out the picture more so, and it'll be about Desiree communicating with them as they becoming, you know, young ladies or whatnot, mature and puberty, all that. That ain't my conversation right there. Like, I ain't, you know, that's that puberty stuff. I'm over here. They'll let me know when I need to bring the hammer, and I'll bring that. That's it.
Yeah. That is fun. I mean, So I mean, guys,
I appreciate you guys.
Yes, this has been fun. Okay, so, and this is like I said, this is our season 2 for Inspired Kingdom. We have a lot more in store. I want to get you guys back on for other things on the individual level and then on a broader level too. And we'll talk a little bit more about that offline. But I appreciate you guys taking the time to share with us your kingdom and to share with us what makes you guys successful and what makes you guys, stay in love. Because I think that's the biggest thing, is staying in love. And a lot of this particular season came from the first season, which was talking about our stories and our testimonies, right? And in that sense, the biggest thing that actually came from that was talking about how love sustains us, right? And how God has really given us these trials and tribulations to make us better. But then I've realized that we don't really give each other our flowers while we're still here, right? And a lot of times, 2020 has taken a lot of things, a lot of people away from us due to the pandemic, due to other issues that we face just as African American people too. So in that, I wanted to bring you guys on because I knew from afar. I mean, this is a chance for us to get to know you guys better. But I knew from afar that you guys was really killing the game. So with that being said, yeah, I was killing the game. So so guys, we'll wrap up here, and we'll be dropping an episode soon, very soon. So be on the lookout for that. And yeah.
Thank you guys for sharing. We really appreciate you and what you guys have to do.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Keep it
Yeah,
up.
y'all be good. Holler at y'all later. Are y'all staying home for Christmas?
Yeah,
Let us
Okay.
know.
yeah.
Yeah, I think we're gonna do the same thing too. Yeah.
Well, y'all have a good Christmas. Happy holidays.
Y'all too.
Y'all have fun out there.
Y'all too.
Uh,
Bye, y'all.
Bye.